Huh?
Imagine this, you get a raise, you feel like a genius. Finally, the universe is rewarding you. But just as you are about to flex on your friends with that overpriced oat milk latte, inflation sneaks in, bites a chunk out of your wallet, and politely says, "Thanks, I'll take that."
I'll take that, thank you.
Why does rent feel like ransom? Why does buying eggs feel like investing in luxury stocks? Why does filling your tank feel like funding a small military operation? That's inflation, the invisible monster that doesn't smash skyscrapers like Godzilla. No, it's subtler, it's quieter, it just eats your money alive, every single day without even burping. By the end of this video, you will not only understand inflation better than 90% of people, you will also know how to stop serving yourself as its main course. So, grab your hiking boots. We're about to climb the steep, slippery hill called surviving inflation. At its core, inflation is simple, a sustained increase in prices over time. Translation, you pay more and get less. Or, in meme terms, me in 2010, $10 buys lunch and coffee. Me in 2025, $10 buys regret. It's called a hidden tax. Why? Because while politicians promise they won't raise taxes, inflation quietly robs savers and transfers wealth from the cautious to the reckless. If you hoard cash under your mattress, congratulations, you're the monster's favorite snack. But let's add some flavor with history. Ancient Rome, the empire thought, hey, let's make more money by melting coins and mixing in cheaper metals. Genius move. Except over time, Roman money was about as trustworthy as a used chariot salesman. Inflation wrecked their economy and weakened the empire. What of Spain's golden curse? In the 16th century, Spain got filthy rich off gold and silver from the New World. But guess what? When you dump endless gold into an economy, prices explode. Suddenly, gold lost value faster than a crypto rug pull. Spain became rich, and then poor. Weimar Germany, 1921 to 1923, the ultimate horror story. Prices doubled every few days. People literally burned cash because it was cheaper than buying firewood. Imagine needing a wheelbarrow full of notes just to buy bread. Germany's middle class poof wiped out, and what replaced it? Oh, right, that tiny footnote in history called The Rise of Hitler. In the 2000s, Zimbabwe's inflation peaked at 231 million%. The government printed $100 trillion notes that couldn't even buy a sandwich. Imagine walking around with trillion-dollar bills that were worth less than tissue paper. Venezuela. In the 2010s, inflation turned salaries into jokes. Cash was so worthless that people used it for crafts, literal handbags made of banknotes. The only thing that inflated faster than prices was public despair. And let's not forget, Lebanon 2019 to God knows when, because it's still ongoing. Lebanon is apparently the new kid on the hyperinflation block. Once called the Paris of the Middle East, Lebanon's financial system imploded after years of corruption, bad banking, and political incompetence. The Lebanese pound lost over 90% of its value in just a few years. Middle-class families woke up one day to discover their savings were locked in banks, effectively gone. Imagine having worked 20 years, saving diligently, and then poof, overnight, it's monopoly money. Supermarkets went full horror show. Prices updated hourly. Medicine became unaffordable. Some families now rely on remittances from relatives abroad just to survive, and to top it off, the government pretended everything was under control. Spoiler, it wasn't.
Everything is falling apart. Everything is falling apart.
Each case is different causes, different timelines, but the ending is the same. Inflation isn't just higher prices, it's civilization slowly being boiled alive. And yet, we measure this catastrophe with something called the Consumer Price Index (CPI), which is about as honest as a dating app profile picture. Core inflation excludes food and fuel, as if we're all living off sunlight and vibes, and your personal inflation rate? Always worse. Because while the government claims inflation is 6%, your landlord, your grocer, and your gas station apparently miss the memo. Let's ask, why does inflation happen? First culprit, money printing. Economists like to dress it up as quantitative easing, which is code for we created money out of nothing and hoped nobody noticed. Look at 2020 to 2022, governments injected trillions into economies. Result? Prices skyrocketed like fireworks at a toddler's birthday party. Second culprit, supply and demand chaos. COVID broke supply chains. Suddenly, toilet paper was more valuable than oil, then governments handed out stimulus checks, and demand surged while supply lagged. Congratulations, you just lit the inflation bonfire. Third culprit, government overspending. Politicians love deficit spending. It's like putting dinner on a credit card and then skipping town before the bill arrives. It's politically safer to let inflation silently eat people alive than to announce a new tax hike. Fourth culprit, central banks. They love lowering interest rates. Free money, borrow more, invest more, buy more, until suddenly the economy is bloated like someone at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Every inflationary cycle in history comes back to the same thing, people in power thinking they're smarter than math. Spoiler, math always wins. Inflation isn't one size fits all. It comes in flavors like an ice cream shop designed by Satan. The first type of inflation is creeping inflation 2 to 3% annually. Central banks call this healthy. Translation, we're slowly stealing from you, but in a way you won't notice until retirement. The second one is walking inflation 3 to 10%. Planning becomes chaos. Businesses can't set prices, families can't budget. It's like trying to play chess while the board keeps shaking. Third, galloping inflation 10 to 50%. A prime example of this is Brazil in the 1980s. They went through multiple currencies because no one trusted the last one. You'd get paid and rush to spend immediately because tomorrow's money was worthless. And then there's hyperinflation 50% plus monthly. Of course, this is what characterized Weimar, Zimbabwe, and Venezuela's inflation. At this stage, the economy collapses. Cash becomes wallpaper. Barter returns. Chickens become more reliable than banks. Finally, sectoral inflation. Sometimes inflation hides housing costs climb while official inflation looks tame. Healthcare, tuition, food, they all rise faster than wages, and nobody updates the CPI basket. It's inflation dressed up in a cheap disguise. Recognizing which type you're facing is half the battle. If you think it's just a little creeping inflation, but you're really in sectoral inflation with housing and healthcare bleeding you dry, you're already cooked. How do governments fix inflation? Spoiler, they don't. In the 1980s, American economist Paul Volcker jacked interest rates to nearly 20%.
Inflation can only persist with big growth in the money supply that feeds and supports the inflationary process. So what the Federal Reserve does fundamentally is control the money supply, and we finally reached a point where we said, look, we're just not going to permit an increase in money supply to support this inflation.
It worked, but it crushed borrowers. Mortgages were scarier than horror movies.
Well, they're mortgages. And who the hell doesn't pay their mortgage?
As a result of austerity measures, governments are willing to go to great lengths just to cut spending. This always leads to riot. Then, before you know it, the dreaded spending comes back. It's like a crash diet. You lose weight fast, then binge and end up worse.
Wow! Talk about going on a crash diet!
What of price controls? Oh yes, the classic. President Nixon froze wages and prices in the 70s. It looked good short-term, but shortages and black markets exploded. Venezuela repeated this playbook. Outcome? Empty shelves and eggs sold like drugs. Let's also highlight modern monetary theory, MMT, the academic fantasy that governments can print endlessly. Supporters say, we'll just tax inflation later. Sure, and I'll lose weight by buying smaller pants. International coordination? Don't even get me started on this one. Central banks hold hands during crises like kids in a trust fall. Sometimes it works as seen in the 2008 recession aftermath. Other times, someone cheats in currency wars glaringly portrays this. Bottom line, governments don't solve inflation, they manage optics. The real cures are painful rate hikes, spending cuts, and no politician wants to campaign on vote for me, I'll make you miserable now so you'll be happy later.
If you're lame enough to vote, vote for me!
So how do you, the average human trying not to get eaten, survive this monster? Step 1. Calculate your personal inflation rate. Governments may claim it's 4%, but your rent went up 20%, groceries 15%, and your Netflix plan now costs a kidney. That's your real inflation. Step 2. Hedge wisely. Real estate. Buy if it makes sense. Or consider REITs. Gold and silver, boring, shiny, and reliable. Gold's been protecting people since pharaohs had bad hair days. Commodities, wheat, oil, copper, stuff civilizations can't live without. Tips, bonds, government bonds adjusted for inflation. Stocks. Pick companies with pricing power. Coca-Cola can raise prices and you'll still buy it. Crypto, Bitcoin is called digital gold. Volatile, yes. But at least no central banker can print 21 million more tomorrow. Step 3. Protect your income. Upgrade your skills. Diversify income streams. Negotiate inflation clauses. Become less replaceable than your boss's morning coffee.
Let's just say I'm the boss.
Step 4. Leverage debt smartly. Fixed rate debt is your secret weapon. Borrow at 3%, pay back later with inflated dollars. You're essentially robbing the bank legally. Step 5. Diversify globally. Spread across currencies, assets, and geographies. Inflation might eat the dollar, but maybe the Swiss franc or Singapore dollar still has teeth. Finally, build an action plan, emergency fund, 6 to 12 months. Quarterly investment checkups. Budget discipline, track fixed versus variable costs. Use apps to monitor inflation. Inflation is inevitable, poverty isn't. Inflation isn't new. It's been around since humans invented money, and it will outlive us all. Governments will keep fumbling cures, and politicians will keep pretending it's under control. Your job? Stop waiting for them to save you. Build your defenses. Hedge. Diversify. Take control. So here's your immediate checklist. Calculate your personal inflation rate. Audit your savings and investments. Start with one hedge this week, because the monster isn't going away. The question is, will you feed it or fight it?
I'll fight it.
If you want a step-by-step guide to building your defenses, check out the financial course link in the description. It's built for people exactly like you, tired of watching their money shrink. Hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. What's the craziest inflation story you've seen or lived through? Because trust me, everyone's got one.